casual staff, temporary staff, and part-time employees. Now, when you hear casual staff, okay, we withhold. Casual staff are employees who are engaged for not more than 6 months, and their work is intermittent or seasonal in nature, right? And mostly we compute their wages on a daily basis. So when you have an employee like that, all you have to do is withhold at 5%, right? 5% on the gross amount paid to him. So we are saying that when you look at Mr. Akoto, and they don't get any benefit like reliefs or anything, right? So Mr. Eric Akoto is a casual worker at Koforidua Tech. No, so in the year 2017, he earned a total gross salary of 15,000, and he has 3 wives and 10 children. Hey, chairman, 6 of the children are in first cycle institution, while other 4 are in second cycle. He also takes care of 2 aged relatives. You are not concerned.
Casual staff.
That's good. Chairman, so in that case, what's the final tax on casual staff? That means you have to take 5% of the 15,000, right? That is all. That's all the tax we will take. And that will be how much? This guy doesn't get any relief, so they can trick you in exam, bring so many reliefs. You will be tempted. I'm telling you, casual staff, no relief. Even if he has 100 children or 100 wives, no relief for him, right? Unless he has another employment where he's not a casual staff, then that one is active employment. Are we okay? So that's how we deal with casual staff. Is everybody okay with casual staff? Very easy, right? So now what they do is that casual staff, they include it in other questions, okay? They will mix it up with a withholding tax question, and they'll say casual staff, this staff, temporary staff, whatever. Are we okay? So please remember. Now let's come to the issue of temporary staff and then part-time staff. First, I'll talk about part-time staff. Anytime you have a part-time employee, okay, it's 10% on account, also final, right? It's on account because you may have another employee. So this one, we are talking about galamsey. When you are doing some galamsey work, right? Not galamsey as in gold, you understand? Like part-time job that you are doing to get something small. So far as you have a primary employment, that income will be taxed at 10% on account so that you can take credit for it, okay? So I'm going to use this example, but I'm going to change the parameters, right? So now I'm going to say that, okay, now let's say that this guy, okay, now I'm going to say that this guy has what? In Rage, they say he's a gynecologist at Rage, right? And let's say that at Rage, he was taking 20,000 Ghana cedis, right? With the following allowances. Okay, let's say that his allowances are 10%, or let's make his allowances 20%, right? Then he contributes to Social Security. Okay, let's say this is what he has. Let's make it 120,000. I want something here. Okay, so this is it in the month of 2017. Now, you know that he works part-time at Safe Mother Clinic, which is 7,000. Meaning that what will happen? We will withhold, right? Do you all agree? So in that case, let's look at Safe Mother Clinic, which is the galamsey he's doing. So in Safe Mother Clinic, we are going to withhold, right? How much was he paid? Amount received from the clinic. How much was it?
7,000.
Okay, so this guy received 7,000, right? So if he receives 7,000, we are now going to withhold what? He's what? Here is a part-time staff. And I told you part-time staff or part-time employment, how much do we withhold? What's the
10%.
final withholding? It's non-final, right? It's on account. So in that case, we take 10% of the what? Of the 7,000, right? Which is what? 700 cedis. But this 700 cedis is on account of his income, meaning that when you get your actual income, your actual tax, you are going to claim this as a credit. Okay. So now let's look at his actual income. Now at Rage, which was his primary employment, right? Rage Hospital, which was his primary employment. How much was he receiving in a year?
120,000.
He was receiving basic of what? 120,000, right? Then this is what you do. Then you have what? We add allowances. So what was his cash allowances? We said it was what? 20% of his income. So 20% of his 120,000. And that gives us what? 24,000, right? Okay. So that gives us what? 144.
144.
So, okay. Which is his total emolument, right? So once we get his total emolument, we add other income, right? So under other income, what other income did he receive from elsewhere? Part-time work, right? He had some part-time work at Safe Mother Clinic. Do you remember? And how much did he receive there? So because it's on account, we are going to add this whole 7,000 to his income. Do you get it? So now what becomes his total income or his total accessible income? What becomes his accessible income?
151.
151,000. Please, do you guys get it now? Is it understood? So now that we get his total accessible income, now let's take his social security, contributes to social security. So we take 5.5% of his what, 120,000 as social security relief. So 151,000 going by 5.5. That's 8,305, right? Okay, so what's the chargeable income now? $151,000 minus 8,305. Did you get 142,695?
Yeah,
Yes, boss.
Audio.
the SSF is 6,600.
6,600.
It's 6,600.
I rather want to take the 151,000. Sorry. My friend will say it's a slip of eye. 6,600. Eh? Okay, so when we did that, what did we get? 151 minus 66. 144,400, right? Okay. So now let's get his tax. So this was 2017. 2017 rates, we already wrote it in our first question. So income, rate, and then tax, right? So what was the income itself? Anyway, let's put the income somewhere down here. 144,400. Out of the 144,400, we know that the first 2,592, I'm using 2017 rate, is free, right? Meaning nil also, okay? The next 1,296 is taxed at 5%, okay? So that gives us what? 64 cedis, 80 pesos. The next 1,812 will be taxed at 10%, which is 181.20. The next 33,180 will be taxed at 17.5, giving us 5,806.5. Okay, then the excess, which is after comparing all these things, right? When you add all these ones up, you end up with 38,880. Comparing it to 14,4, the difference is what you are going to subtract. When you add all these taxes to, it's going to give you what? Add it for me, 64.80 plus 181.2 plus 5,806.5. You end up with what? 6,052.2. 0.2? No, it's supposed to be 0.5, right? This 052.50, right? And the excess is this. So what's the excess? When we take off 144,400 minus our 38,880, we end up with 105,520, right? And this one is the excess, which will now be taxed at 25%. That's how we do the graduation. So this figure at 25% to give us what?
26,380.
80. Okay. So now, with that being said, we add the two up, And then our tax liability will give us what? That's 6052.50 plus 20.
32,432.5.
32,432.5. Okay. Now we have this, right? So we can now less tax paid, not so, which is the tax he paid when he was a safe mother. Do you remember? Because this is on account of his income. So at safe mother, how much tax did he pay? When he was a safe mother clinic, how much tax did he pay? Let's go up. When he was a safe mother, he paid tax at 700 cedis, right? So now that we added the whole 7,000 to his income, we must now take credit of it. So we are now going to deduct the tax of the 700 from his income. And what do we get for his net tax liability now?
31,732.5.
732.56. Please, are we okay with part-time employment? Now, this is part-time employment, but if they say part-time invigilation or part-time lecturing or part-time supervision of MPhil or whatever, then that one, it will be fine now. You don't do this, but if they just say part-time employment, then just include it in income and take credit of it, right? I wanted us to do the full stuff. Yeah. So you see how we got the excess here, right? We added all the income and subtracted from the chargeable income and all the taxes too. You can come up with a suitable formula for yourself that the sum of all the taxes, we took it from our chargeable income. Do you remember? To get the excess, we tax the excess at 25% after adding all the taxes. So you can get a formula, okay, for your tax payable. Okay, a formula for your tax payable, and that formula is simply what? Our chargeable income minus the excess, which is the 38,880, right? And remember that this one, we taxed it at 25%. Then we added all the taxes, which is the 6052.5, right? And once you put it in this, you end up with what? Our 144,400 minus our 38,880 at 25% before you add your 6052.5. And you realize that when you subtract this, that excess will now become 105,520, now being taxed at what? 25% before you add what? 6052.5. So it's like you are building the same schedule, right? So it's this one at 25% plus this. So when you finish up, you end up getting what? You end up getting 26,380 plus our 6052.5. And you end up with what? 32,432.5, right? When you finish, then you say that your net tax is going to be what? Our 32,432.5 minus our what? Our 700 cedis paid as safe mother. Do you all agree? And that will end up giving us 31,732.50. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so now I think you are equally
Okay.
and yes,
Can you
boss.
please recap the part-time lecturing? I think that I missed that.
No, that one is final tax, 10% final tax.
Oh.
Yes. But look at the nature of the agreement. If he's lecturing, it's a university lecturing, okay, where he's a lecturer, it is his work, it's not part-time. Then that one is employment, not part-time lecturing. So get the distinction. Next time, just state your assumption, right? Lecturing is lecturing, but if they say he's employed in a university as a lecturer, they are trying to draw your attention that it is employment, not something he's doing part-time. Okay, so get it.
Bill,
Yes, boss.
please. So is it possible to have two primary employment, and what would be the tax implication?
You still tax and take credit for the other. Even if they are primary employment, at the end of the day, one would, it's difficult to have two primary employment. One would definitely be secondary. Because the reason we have
No.
primary, The reason we have primary and secondary employment is because of you getting credit from the other. So if both of them are primary, then how do we take credit of most of the income? That
Open it. Open it.
It's still cold. Why are you drinking cold water this morning?
Habib, are you okay?
Okay, because I'm asking because like a situation, you can have a situation where you have a teacher like who is in private school as well as maybe having GES employment, but the schools are just together. So the private school will just give him full employment, pay his PAYE normally, and he's also with GES.
Yeah,
So
those
that's
incomes will be accounted for together, right? But then we'll add,
yeah.
definitely have one which is the main one, and the other which will be like sort of addition to the income.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Which one was
Thank
the letter actually? Which one came first? Which one was actually on the letter? The one in the private school, right?
yes.
Yeah, before GS. So GS will be like an additional income, which we are now going to add. Because we cannot have, by all means, one will start and another will continue. So,
I'm
Okay.
so definitely even spend more time
Okay.
at one place than another one.
of course. Of course.
Okay. Thank you,
So
sir.
what about a nurse who runs shifts? Now the issue is getting complex, right? A nurse who has been running shifts. Yes. What about a nurse who has been running shifts?
I think it depends on the arrangement.
Okay.
If it's a normal schedule that is part of the employment, then I don't think it can be treated as either overtime or part-time because it's a schedule. But where it is running outside the working schedule hours, we can look at it from that point as another benefit.